The assembly hall stretched wide enough to hold 10,000 beings. Wu stood in line with the other cadets, her hands clasped behind her back in the standard military rest position. Around her, aliens of every shape and size waited their turn at the scanner pillar. Some had scales that shimmered under the lights. Others had fur, feathers, or skin that changed colors with their moods. A few didn't even have solid bodies, floating in containment fields like living clouds. She was one of 3 humans in the entire Galactic Military Academy. Just 3, among 40,000 students from 217 different species. The scanner pillar stood in the center of the hall, a tall column of dark metal that reached up toward the domed ceiling. Today was Combat History Assessment Day, an old tradition meant to inspire pride in the cadets. Each student would step forward, place their hand on the scanner, and let it read their genetic code. The pillar would access their species' military database and display their people's greatest battles and achievements on the massive holographic screens above. Wu had watched hundreds of scans already. Most species got a soft blue light. The scanner would show a few notable victories, maybe some famous generals, statistics about won battles. Some of the prouder warrior races got green or even gold, though with their powerful claws and armored hides had gotten a bright gold glow. Their holograms showed fleets of ships, conquered systems, thousands of years of military tradition. The cadet in front of Wu finished his scan. He was an insect-like being with 4 arms and compound eyes. His scan glowed green. The screens showed his people's defensive wars, how they'd protected their home system from invaders. The hall applauded politely. Then it was Wu's turn. She heard the laughter before she even moved. It started somewhere to her left where a group of cadets stood together. Then it spread, joined in. Even some of the smaller species, the ones who rarely spoke above a whisper, were chittering among themselves. "The human's turn," someone said loud enough for everyone to hear. "This should be quick," another voice added. "What military history do the fragile ones even have?" Wu kept her face neutral. She'd heard it all before. Humans were weak by galactic standards. No armor plating like no venom like no natural weapons at all except soft hands and blunt teeth. Her bones would break under pressure that other species barely noticed. She needed to sleep every day, needed to eat constantly, needed exactly the right temperature or she'd die. A species they called humans, but only because Earth itself was so deadly that surviving it was considered an achievement. She walked to the scanner. Behind her, someone made a joke about whether the machine would even register her. More laughter. Her roommate called out from the crowd. "Show some respect," was a cat-like species with silver fur and intelligent eyes. She'd been kind to Wu from the first day, one of the few who didn't treat her like a curiosity. "Respect for what?" a named shouted back. Her species couldn't fight their way out of a recycling station. Wu reached the pillar and placed her hand on the smooth metal surface. It felt cold against her palm. The scanner hummed to life, reading the unique pattern of her DNA, searching through the vast galactic database for Earth's military records. The hall grew quiet. Even the mockers stopped laughing, waiting to see what pathetic display the human would produce. The pillar began to glow. But it wasn't blue, it wasn't green or gold. It was deep blood red. The color flooded the pillar from bottom to top, so bright it cast crimson shadows across the entire hall. Wu stepped back, confused. She'd never seen a red scan before. Didn't know the scanner could even produce that color. The holographic screens flickered to life above her, but instead of showing battles or victories, they displayed text. Lines and lines of text in the standard coalition language, scrolling too fast to read at first. Then the scrolling stopped, frozen on a single message in letters 3 meters tall. Critical warning. Human military history logged by celestial objects DESTROYED, not enemy COMBATNTS. Records SCALED by Coalition Emergency Decree 447 Omega. Complete silence filled the hall. Wu stared up at the words, her heart pounding. What did that mean? Celestial objects destroyed. She knew Earth had fought wars before joining the coalition 200 years ago, but this. A second screen activated. This one showed numbers, coordinates, dates, and a list that made Wu's blood run cold. Phobos, Martian moon destroyed. Ceres Station complex destroyed. Titan orbital ring destroyed. 17 deep space habitats destroyed. 4 asteroid colonies rendered uninhabitable. Mars surface, temporary atmospheric collapse. Venus processing stations, complete loss. 3 planetary surfaces, uninhabitable for 200+ years. The list went on and on. Someone in the crowd made a sound like choking. Translation devices across the hall started malfunctioning, unable to process what they were reading. Several cadets backed away from Wu as if she carried a disease. What is this? His voice had lost all its mockery. Now it just sounded afraid. Wu shook her head. I don't know. A third screen appeared. This one showed a single line of text. Human warfare assessment. Species measures military success not by enemies defeated, but by geographic territory permanently removed from existence. An alarm began blaring. Red lights flashed along the walls. The massive doors at the front of the hall slammed shut with a boom that echoed like thunder. Instructor materialized near the scanner pillar. The ancient being was crystalline, their body made of living geometric patterns that shifted and reformed constantly. They'd been teaching at the academy for over 300 years and had seen thousands of species come through these halls. Wu had never seen them look worried before. Cadet Park Wu's voice resonated through the hall without need for speakers or translators. You will come with me immediately. 2 security officers appeared, not human but heavily armed. They positioned themselves on either side of Wu, not touching her but making their purpose clear. Instructor, what's happening? Wu asked. His crystalline form flickered between colors. Your species records were sealed before you were born, child. Sealed and locked away where no one was meant to see them again. The scanner should never have been able to access this information. But what does it mean, planets destroyed? It means, said quietly, that the galaxy has been very carefully not asking questions about humanity's past, and now those questions can no longer be avoided. The security officers gestured for Wu to follow. As she walked past rows of cadets, she saw fear in their eyes. Species who had laughed at the weak human moments ago now pressed themselves back, trying to put distance between themselves and her. Near the exit, she saw, her friend's silver fur was standing on end, a sign of distress but met her eyes and gave a small nod. Not afraid, just confused. Wu tried to smile back, but her face felt frozen. As the doors closed behind her, she heard the whispers starting, spreading through the hall like wildfire. The humans destroyed planets. Why are they even here? What else have they been hiding? And underneath it all, the question that terrified Wu most. What kind of monsters did we let into the coalition? The red light from the scanner still reflected off the walls as they led her away into the depths of the academy, toward answers she wasn't sure she wanted to know. They took Wu deep into the academy's lower levels, places she'd never seen before. The hallways here were bare metal instead of the decorated corridors above. No windows showed the stars outside, just endless passages lit by cold white lights. The security officers stopped at a heavy door marked with symbols Wu didn't recognize. Instructor touched the door with one crystalline appendage, and it slid open with a hiss. Inside was a small room with a table and chairs. 2 beings Wu had never met sat waiting. One was covered in flowing robes that seemed to be made of liquid light. The other appeared almost human, except their skin had a faint blue tint and their eyes were solid black. Sit, Cadet Park said gently. Wu sat. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table to hide it. The door opened again. Two more humans entered. Wu recognized them immediately. A quiet boy from her engineering classes, and Jin, who worked in the medical division, the only other humans in the entire academy. They looked as confused and scared as Wu felt. "What's going on?" asked as he sat down. "Security pulled me out of a test." "Same," Jin said. She looked at Wu. "Does this have something to do with the scanner?" "News travels fast," the blue-skinned being said. Their voice was soft but carried an edge of concern. "I am historian, this is historian." They gestured to the robed figure. "We are from the Coalition Central Archives." "We need to tell you about your species," said. Their voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "About why the records were sealed, about what humanity did before they joined us." Wu swallowed hard. "The scanner said we destroyed planets." "Not quite," said. "You destroyed moons, stations, habitats. You made planets temporarily uninhabitable. There's a difference, though I'm not sure it's a comforting one." A holographic display activated above the table. It showed Earth, blue and green and beautiful, floating in the darkness of space. "Your is what we classify as a Class 12 hazard planet," explained. Most coalition species evolved on Class 1 or Class 2 worlds, stable climates, few predators, abundant resources. Earth is different. Everything on Earth is designed to kill everything else. The weather tries to kill you. The animals try to kill you. The plants try to kill you. Even the tiny organisms you can't see try to kill you. "We know this," Jin said quietly. "They taught us about Earth in basic training." "But do you know what it means?" asked. "Most species in the coalition have never known true predation. They don't have instincts for violence because they never needed them. Humans evolved those instincts every single day. You had to, or you'd die." The hologram changed. Now it showed cities. Human cities from hundreds of years ago. Then those cities exploded. Mushroom clouds rose into the sky. The images came faster. Missiles launching. Orbital strikes. Weapons Wu had never imagined. "In your 21st and 22nd centuries," continued, "humans fought wars among themselves. This is not unusual. Most species have conflicts, but humans fought differently." The hologram showed the moon Phobos orbiting Mars. Then it showed the moon collapsing, imploding, vanishing into a point of absolute darkness that swallowed everything around it. "The war," said. "Human factions fighting for control of Mars. One side couldn't defeat the other in conventional combat, so they detonated what your scientists called a singularity bomb, an artificial black hole. It consumed Phobos entirely and pulled down 3 Martian cities before the singularity evaporated." His face had gone pale. "My grandmother's family was on Mars. She used to tell stories about the war, but she never mentioned." 2,000 people died when Phobos collapsed," said. "Another 8,000 when the cities fell. But that wasn't what made the coalition seal your records." More images. Asteroids being moved, redirected, turned into weapons. Whole stations vanishing in bursts of light. The display showed the belt conflict, where humans fought for control of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. They'd used the asteroids themselves as kinetic weapons, accelerating them to incredible speeds and crashing them into enemy positions. 17 deep space habitats destroyed, said. Each one home to thousands. You turned your own infrastructure into ammunition. We've never seen anything like it, added. Most species, when they develop weapons of mass destruction, they threaten to use them. Humans actually use them, repeatedly. And you didn't target armies or fleets. You targeted the ground they stood on, the space they occupied. You removed the battlefield from existence. Wu felt sick, but we stopped. We don't do that anymore. Yes, said. It was the first time the instructor had spoken since they entered the room. That's what saved humanity. In 2237, when our probe reached Earth, we found a species in the middle of destroying itself. The Venus incident had just happened. Humans had tried to terraform Venus, make it livable. When that project failed and billions of credits were lost, three different factions blamed each other. They fought. And in fighting, they cracked Venus's surface, caused a chain reaction in the planet's core. Venus became more hostile than it had been before. 3 processing stations lost, said. 42,000 human workers dead. That was when humanity stopped, continued. Your leaders looked at what they'd done and made a choice. They signed the Terran peace accords. They dismantled their weapons. They promised to never fight that way again. And when we offered membership in the coalition, you accepted on the condition that your military history be sealed away, hidden, so no one would judge you by your worst moments. Jin leaned forward. So why is it coming out now? The historians exchanged glances, activated a new hologram. This one showed a star map. 3 solar systems were marked in red. 3 frontier systems have gone dark, said. No communication, no ships return. We sent scout probes, what they found. The hologram changed again. It showed planets, dead planets. The surfaces were scorched black, the atmosphere stripped away. These worlds held billions of beings. Now they hold nothing. Before the systems went dark, said, our sensors detected weapons fire, energy signatures that matched theoretical outputs for human planet crackers from your sealed archives. The room fell silent. You think we did this? Wu's voice came out as a whisper. No, said firmly. We know humans didn't do this. Your people haven't built weapons like that in 2 centuries, but someone has. Someone found your old designs. Someone is using them. Stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is insane. We locked all that away. We destroyed the facilities. We erased the research. Not all of it, said sadly. Humans had outposts in dead systems, abandoned research stations, classified military bases that were simply left behind when you joined the coalition. Someone's been excavating those sites. Who? Jin demanded. We don't know yet, said. But the Coalition Military Council is meeting in 48 hours. They want answers. They want to know if humanity can be trusted. Some are calling for your species to be expelled from the coalition entirely, sent back to Earth and quarantined there permanently. Wu felt like the floor had dropped away beneath her. Because of what we did hundreds of years ago. Because you hid what you did, corrected. Because the galaxy is learning that the friendly humans they've known for 200 years have a past soaked in destruction. Because 3 systems are dead and the weapons that killed them were human-made. But we changed, said desperately. We're not those people anymore. Then prove it, said. The crystalline instructor's form shifted to a deep blue, a color Wu had learned meant sadness. The council wants a human representative to speak, to explain, to convince them that trusting humanity wasn't a mistake. The 3 humans looked at each other. It has to be you, Wu, Jin said quietly. You're the one who triggered the scanner. You're the one everyone saw. I don't know what to say, Wu admitted. I didn't even know about most of this until today. None of us did, added. They don't teach this in school. That's part of the problem, said. You've been protected from your own history. Now you need to face it. Moved closer to Wu. You have 48 hours. We can grant you access to the sealed archives. You can learn everything. Read the reports. Watch the footage. Understand what your ancestors did and why they did it. Then you'll stand before the council and speak for all of humanity. What if I fail? Wu asked. Then humans will spend the rest of their existence confined to one planet, said. Cut off from the stars. And whoever is using your weapons will continue killing, while the galaxy believes humanity is behind it all. The weight of it settled on Wu's shoulders like a physical thing. Billions of lives depending on what she said. Her entire species judged by her words. I'll do it, she said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. Show me everything. The archive room had no windows and walls lined with data storage units that hummed quietly. Wu sat at a terminal, her eyes burning from hours of reading. The sealed files contained everything: battle reports, strategic planning documents, footage of weapons tests, casualty lists that scrolled for pages and pages. She'd been reading for 30 hours straight, brought her food that she barely touched. Jin tried to get her to sleep, but Wu couldn't stop. Every file she opened showed her something worse. The screen in front of her played footage from the Belt conflict. A human commander explained his strategy like he was discussing the weather. "We'll redirect asteroids KB-447, KB-449, and KB-451. Impact calculations show complete destruction of the target habitat with minimal debris scatter. Acceptable losses estimated at 4,000 enemy combatants and 7,000 civilians in surrounding structures." Acceptable losses: 7,000 people who had nothing to do with the war, gone, and the commander said it like it meant nothing. Wu closed the file and opened another. This one detailed the scorched earth protocols used on Mars. If a territory couldn't be held, it was to be made completely unusable. Atmosphere processors sabotaged, water supplies poisoned, even the ground itself salted so nothing could grow there for generations. "Why?" she whispered to the empty room. "Why did they do this?" The archive didn't answer, but as she read deeper, a picture began to form. The humans of that era had been afraid, constantly afraid. Earth's resources were running out. Overpopulation threatened to collapse civilization. So humanity expanded into space desperately, frantically, like drowning people fighting for air. And when they met resistance, when other human factions claimed the same resources, that fear turned into rage. They hadn't been evil, they'd been terrified, and that terror made them do terrible things. The door to the archive opened. Wu expected Jin, but instead entered carrying 2 cups of something that smelled like tea. "You're not supposed to be in here," Wu said. "The archives were restricted." "I know." Set 1 cup in front of Wu and sat down with the other. "I may have borrowed some security credentials, and by borrowed I mean hacked them for me." Despite everything, Wu smiled. "You're going to get expelled." "Then I'll be expelled." Silver fur caught the light from the screens. "I've been watching the news feeds. The whole academy is talking about you, about humans. It's not good." "I can imagine." "There are protests on 17 different worlds," continued. "Species calling for humanity to be removed from the coalition. Some of the gentle races, the ones who never known war, they're terrified. They're saying humans are monsters wearing friendly masks." Wu gestured at the screens around her. "Can you blame them? Look at this. Look at what we did." Studied the frozen image on the screen, a hologram showing a destroyed station. "That was 200 years ago, before your great-grandparents were born." "It doesn't matter, we still did it." "Did you?" asked. "Were you there? Did you fire those weapons?" "My ancestors did." "My ancestors enslaved the for 300 years, said quietly. "They aren't proud of it. We teach it in our schools as a shameful period of our history. But I didn't do it. I'm not responsible for what my great-great-grandparents chose." "It's different," Wu protested. "How?" Wu struggled to find the words. "Because this is worse. Because we didn't just hurt people, we erased places. We made entire regions uninhabitable. We measured success by how much we could destroy." "And then you stopped," said firmly. "Show me one human conflict in the last 200 years that resulted in permanent destruction. One." Wu opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. She'd been reading human history for hours. After the Terran Peace Accords in 2237, after first contact with the Coalition, human warfare had changed completely. There were still conflicts, still disagreements, but nothing like the old wars. Nothing that cracked planets or consumed moons. "We learned," she said softly. "You learned," agreed. "That's what I tried to tell the others. I said, I've known Wu for 2 years. She holds doors open for people. She helps anyone who asks. She cried when we studied the extinction of the species in history class. The person I know isn't the person who did these things. Wu felt tears building behind her eyes. What if I can't convince them? What if they only see the monsters we were? Then you show them the truth, said. Not the truth about what humans did, the truth about what humans became. After left, Wu kept reading but with a different focus. She started pulling up human service records from the last 2 centuries. Coalition disaster relief teams where humans volunteered, medical missions, reconstruction projects after natural disasters. Over and over, she found humans helping rebuild things, never destroying them. Arrived around hour 36 with news and dark circles under his eyes. I did something that might get me expelled, he said. Join the club, Wu muttered. I hacked into the current coalition military database. He pulled up a hologram showing service records. Look at these statistics. Human soldiers and officers have the lowest friendly fire incident rates of any species, the most conservative weapons use profiles, the highest safety ratings. Jin entered behind him, looking exhausted but excited. I found testimonials, she said, activating her own data pad, from coalition soldiers who served with human units. Listen to this one. It's from a commander named. She read aloud. Lieutenant refused a direct order to perform an orbital strike on an enemy position. The strike would have ended the battle immediately with 0 casualties to our forces. But there were 27 civilian structures in the blast radius. The lieutenant said she couldn't guarantee their safety, so she led a ground assault instead. Her squad took heavy losses. She died securing those buildings, making sure every civilian got out alive. I would not be here if she had chosen the easier path. I would not want to be here if it meant accepting that kind of sacrifice from others. Wu felt something shift in her chest. We're so afraid, she whispered. What? Asked. We're so afraid of becoming what we were, Wu said, louder now. So terrified of falling back into those old patterns that we've become the most careful warriors in the entire galaxy. We second-guess every decision. We check and recheck every target. We'd rather die than risk civilian casualties because we remember what it was like when we didn't care about those things. That's what you need to tell the council, Jin said. Before Wu could respond, the door opened again. This time it was Instructor, moving with unusual urgency for a crystalline being. There's been a development, said. The council moved the hearing up. It's happening in 6 hours. What? Why? Wu stood up so fast her chair fell over. Because we identified who's been using the human weapons, said grimly. A hologram appeared showing ships of strange design. Separatists, a radical faction within the Imperium, has been excavating old human military installations. They've recovered sealed weapons and they're attempting to reverse engineer them. Wu stared at the ships, but they've been leading the protests against us. Not all, corrected. This is a splinter group. They call themselves the New Ascendancy. They see humans as prophets of a new age of warfare. They believe the old ways of the Coalition, with its restrictions on weapons and its emphasis on peaceful resolution, have made the galaxy weak. They want to bring back what they call the purity of total war. And they're using our weapons to do it, said, horrified. They've issued a statement, continued. They're demanding the Council surrender all human citizens to them. They claim humans should be their teachers, their guides into this new age. If the Council refuses, they'll demonstrate what they've learned. Demonstrate how? Jin asked, though her voice suggested she already knew the answer. They're targeting the Council station, said. They'll be in weapons range in 8 hours, but the Council hearing happens first. In 6 hours, you'll stand before the representatives of every species in the Coalition and convince them to trust humanity. Then, assuming you succeed, we'll all try to survive what your ancestors created. Wu looked at the screens around her, at the history of human violence displayed in countless files and footage. Then she looked at her friends, who'd risked everything to find the truth. Jin, who'd searched through testimonials to find the good humans had done, who'd broken rules just to sit with her. "Okay," she said, "I know what to say." "What will you tell them?" asked. Wu thought about Lieutenant, who died rather than take the easy path that would kill civilians. About 200 years of humans choosing restraint over destruction. About the terror that drove her ancestors to madness and the wisdom that pulled their descendants back from the edge. "The truth," she said, "all of it. What we were, what we did, and what we chose to become. And then I'll trust them to see what I see. That the scariest thing about humans isn't what we can destroy. It's how hard we fight not to." The Grand Council Chamber was the largest structure Wu had ever seen. The space station that housed it orbited a neutral star system, chosen specifically because it belonged to no one species. The chamber itself was a vast sphere where representatives from all 217 coalition species gathered for the most important decisions. Wu stood in a small waiting room just outside the main chamber. Through the transparent wall, she could see the representatives taking their seats in the circular rows that spiraled up from the speaking platform at the center. Crystalline beings like Instructor, floating energy clouds, species she didn't have names for, all of them here to judge humanity. "You don't have to do this alone," said. He stood beside her, dressed in his formal cadet uniform. Jin was on her other side, looking pale but determined. "The council said one human representative," Wu replied. "They said one speaker," Jin corrected. "They didn't say others couldn't stand with you." The door opened and Instructor entered. "It's time." Wu's legs felt weak as they walked into the chamber. The speaking platform was a circular stage in the center, elevated slightly so everyone could see. As Wu stepped onto it, the vast chamber fell silent. Thousands of eyes and visual sensors and consciousness fields all focused on her. A voice boomed through the chamber, translated simultaneously into every language. "The Council recognizes Cadet Wu Park of Earth, speaking for humanity." But before Wu could begin, another figure stepped onto the platform from the opposite side. It was one of the insect-like species. Wu recognized him from the news feeds. Senator, one of the loudest voices calling for humanity's expulsion. "Honored Council's voice clicked and buzzed, translated into smooth words. "Before we hear pleasant speeches, let us remember why we are here." He activated a hologram that filled the air above the platform. It showed the 3 dead systems, planets scorched black, billions of beings erased from existence. "This is what human weapons do. This is the legacy of Earth." Murmurs rippled through the council, fear, anger, grief mixing together. Continued, his 4 arms gesturing dramatically. "The humans claim they have changed. They say they are peaceful now. But can we trust this? They hid their true nature from us for 200 years. They sealed their records, buried their sins, and smiled while we welcomed them into our civilization. Now their weapons have killed billions and they ask us to believe they are innocent." He turned to Wu. "Tell me, human, if your people are so peaceful, why do you still exist? Why didn't you destroy yourselves centuries ago?" The question hung in the air. Wu felt her mouth go dry. This wasn't how she'd planned to start. "Answer the senator," the council speaker commanded. Wu took a breath. "We almost did destroy ourselves. In 2237, when your probe reached Earth, we were dying. The Venus incident had just happened. 42,000 humans killed by our own weapons. We'd lost Phobos, cracked Mars, poisoned the belt. We'd turned our entire solar system into a graveyard." She activated her own hologram, showing the footage she'd found in the archives. Destroyed stations, scorched planets, the singularity bomb that consumed Phobos. She didn't hide anything. "Every word Senator said is true," Wu continued. "We did these things. We built weapons designed not to defeat enemies but to erase them from existence. We measured success by how much we could destroy." "Then you admit it," said triumphantly. "You admit humans are monsters." "We were," Wu said. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. She raised her voice to be heard over them. We were monsters, past tense, because in 2237 we looked at what we'd done and made a choice. The hologram changed. Now it showed the signing of the Terran peace accords. Thousands of human leaders from every faction, every nation, every corporation gathering together. We chose to stop, Wu said. We dismantled 99.9% of our weapons of mass destruction. We sealed the research. We created the strictest weapons control treaty ever written by any species. We promised ourselves, and later promised you, that we would never fight that way again. Promises are easy, countered. Keeping them is hard. How do we know you won't break them? How do we know this isn't all manipulation, that you're not the ones using these weapons now? Because we could have already, said, stepping forward. Wu hadn't expected him to speak, but she was glad he did. If humans wanted to use planet crackers, we wouldn't need to excavate old bases. We still have the knowledge. We still have the designs locked in archives. We could build new ones any time we wanted. But we don't, Jin added, moving to stand beside him. Do you know what the human service record looks like? We have the lowest friendly fire rates of any species, the most conservative weapons use. We check and recheck every target. We'd rather take casualties ourselves than risk civilian deaths. She activated a new hologram, showing the testimony from Commander. The words echoed through the chamber. Lieutenant refused a direct order to perform an orbital strike. She died rather than take the easier path that would kill civilians. One example, said dismissively. One soldier's choice doesn't excuse centuries of violence. It's not one example, Wu said. She pulled up the data had found, spreading it across the hologram for everyone to see. This is 200 years of data, every human military action since we joined the coalition. Look at it. Read it. We are the most careful warriors in this entire galaxy because we are the most afraid of what we could become. A new voice spoke from the council seats. It was a not but another representative. You say you're afraid, but fear doesn't stop violence. Fear causes it. Not this kind of fear, Wu said. She thought about all those hours reading in the archives, about understanding what drove her ancestors to madness. Our ancestors were afraid of dying, afraid of running out of resources, afraid of losing to their enemies. That fear made them lash out. But we're afraid of something different. We're afraid of being them, of falling back into those patterns, of looking at a problem and choosing destruction as the solution. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. Every human child learns about the war, about the Belt conflict, about Venus. We teach it not as glory, not as victory, but as horror, as warning. We make sure every generation knows what we're capable of so they'll choose never to do it again. Then who is using the weapons? Another voice called out. If not humans, then who? Before Wu could answer, Instructor's form appeared on the platform beside her. We have identified the perpetrators. With the Council's permission, I will present our findings. The Council speaker granted permission, activated a hologram showing the Separatist fleet. The ships were visible now, strange hybrids of design and recovered human technology. The new ascendancy, announced. A radical faction within the Imperium. They have been excavating abandoned human military installations in dead systems. They have recovered sealed weapons and are attempting to reverse engineer them. Shock rippled through the delegation. Several representatives stood up, shouting denials. We have proof, continued, showing surveillance footage from the border systems. The ships clearly displayed new ascendancy markings. They see humans as prophets of a new age of warfare. They believe the Coalition's emphasis on peaceful resolution has made the galaxy weak. They want to bring back what they call total war. This is impossible, one representative said. Our species would never. Your species didn't, interrupted gently. A fraction of your species did, just as a fraction of humanity once committed terrible acts. The question is not whether or humans are violent by nature. The question is, What do we choose to be? His voice had lost its confidence. Even so, the weapons are human. The designs are human. Without humanity, none of this would be possible. You're right, Wu said. Everyone turned back to her. Those weapons exist because humans created them. That's our responsibility, our burden, and that's why we're offering to help. Help how? The council speaker asked. We know how those weapons work, said. We know their weaknesses, their failure points, the safety systems that were built into them. Information the new ascendancy doesn't have because they're just copying designs without understanding them. We can help you defend against them, Jin added. Not by building new weapons, but by teaching you how to counter the old ones. Wu looked up at the assembled council, at the thousands of beings who held humanity's future in their hands. You want to know if you can trust us? Then trust this. We're not asking you to forget what we did. We're not asking you to pretend our history doesn't exist. We're asking you to see that we learned from it, that we changed, that the true measure of a species isn't their worst moment but what they choose to do after. Fine words, said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. But the new ascendancy fleet will be here in less than 2 hours. They've demanded you surrender all humans to them. They want you as teachers, as guides into their new age of war. What will your pretty speeches do against that? Before Wu could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Red lights flashed along the walls. The council speaker's voice cut through the chaos. The new ascendancy fleet has arrived early. They're at the station perimeter. They're charging weapons. A hologram appeared showing the separatist ships, dozens of them, bristling with recovered human technology. At their center was a massive vessel with what looked like a planet cracker mounted along its spine. They're broadcasting, a technician called out. A face appeared on the screens, but one covered in crude cybernetic modifications. His voice was harsh and excited. Coalition Council, you have harbored the prophets of true warfare long enough. Surrender the humans to us, or we will demonstrate what we have learned from their archives. You have 30 minutes. The transmission cut off. Panic spread through the council chamber. Representatives shouted questions, demands, accusations. Some called for immediate evacuation. Others called for surrender. Wu stood on the platform, watching the chaos, feeling the weight of 200 years of human redemption threatening to collapse under the shadow of what they'd once been. Then she made her choice. Give me command authority, she said to instructor. The chamber fell silent, everyone staring at her. Give me tactical command, Wu repeated. I know those weapons. I know what they can do and what they can't. Trust me. Let me prove that humans have changed. The council chamber exploded with voices. Some representatives shouted agreement. Others screamed protests. A human asking for command authority while human weapons threatened them all seemed like madness to many. Absolutely not, declared. You want us to trust a human with our lives while human weapons aim at us. Those aren't human weapons anymore, Wu said firmly. They were human. Now they're in the hands of people who don't understand what they're using. That makes them everyone's problem. The council speaker raised a crystalline appendage for silence. Cadet Park, what exactly are you proposing? I know those weapons, Wu said. She pulled up schematics from her data pad, spreading them across the hologram. The planet cracker they're charging uses a cascade reaction to build up energy. It takes 40 minutes to reach full power. We have time. Time to do what? Another representative asked. Our defense fleet is hours away. We have no weapons on this station capable of fighting them. We don't need to fight them, said, understanding dawning in his eyes. We need to stop them from firing. Exactly, Wu confirmed. These weapons have safety systems built into them. Humans learned the hard way that planet crackers are dangerous to everyone, including the people using them. There are fail-safes, overrides, critical design flaws that the new ascendancy wouldn't know about because they're just copying stolen technology. Instructor's form shifted colors rapidly, a sign of intense thought. You want to sabotage their weapons remotely. I want to warn them, Wu corrected. I want to tell them exactly what they're doing wrong before they kill themselves and everyone else. That's insane, said. You'd give them information, help them. I tell them the truth, Wu replied. That those weapons are flawed. That human engineers died by the thousands learning those flaws. That if they fire at full power, there's a 12% chance of catastrophic cascade failure. The weapon doesn't just destroy the target, it destroys the ship carrying it. Jin pulled up historical records. The Venus incident happened because of cascade failure. A planet cracker misfired, the cascade spread to the containment systems. The whole installation went critical. That's what made Venus worse instead of better. And you just tell them this, the council speaker asked. Warn your enemies about the dangers. They're not my enemies, Wu said quietly. They're people who found terrible weapons and don't understand them. If I stay silent and let them kill themselves, I'm no better than the humans who built those weapons in the first place. If I speak up and they listen, maybe no one has to die today. Turn to the council speaker. I support this plan. Grant Cadet Park tactical authority. I oppose, stated immediately. Vote, the council speaker commanded. The chamber filled with light as representatives voted, their seats glowing in different colors. Wu watched, her heart pounding. Blue for yes, red for no. The lights flickered and shifted as the count was tallied. The vote is decided, the council speaker announced. By a margin of 53% to 47%, Cadet Park is granted temporary tactical authority. May wisdom guide her choices. Wu stepped to the command console that rose from the platform. Her hands shook as she activated the communication systems. Open a channel to the new Ascendancy flagship, she ordered. Channel open, the technician confirmed. The face of the leader appeared on screen, his cybernetic eye glowing red. Have you decided to surrender the humans? No, Wu said. I've decided to save your life. He laughed, a harsh mechanical sound. Save me. You're not in a position to save anyone. The planet cracker you're charging, Wu said calmly. It's type designation PC-7, correct, probably recovered from the Titan installation. The leader's laugh stopped. How did you? I'm human, Wu interrupted. I have access to the sealed archives. I know everything about that weapon, including things you don't, like the fact that it has a critical design flaw in the containment system. You're lying, trying to trick us. Am I? Wu pulled up technical specifications and broadcast them. The containment field uses a magnetic lattice pattern to hold the reaction stable, but if you charge it past 87% power, the lattice begins to degrade. At full charge, there's a 12% chance of cascade failure. The reaction escapes containment and spreads through the ship's power systems. She showed him footage from the archives. Human ships exploding from the inside, consumed by their own weapons. We lost 42 ships during testing before we figured this out. Thousands of people died. Is that what you want? To be consumed by the weapon you're trying to fire? She's telling the truth, another voice said. One of the other on the bridge moved into view. He looked younger, less modified. Commander, I've been reviewing the schematics we recovered. There are notes in the files about containment issues, but they're in human technical language. We couldn't translate them properly. The commander's face twisted with rage and doubt. Even if this is true, why would you tell us? Why help your enemies? Because you're not my enemies, Wu said. You're people who found weapons you don't fully understand, and I'm someone who knows what happens when those weapons are used. I've spent the last 2 days reading about every mistake humanity made with these things, every life lost because we chose destruction over understanding. I won't let that happen again, even to save myself. You expect me to believe you care about lives. I expect you to care about your own crew, Wu replied. Look at your power readings. You're at 83% charge already. Every second you continue, the risk increases. At 90%, the chance of failure jumps to 27%. At 95%, it's 43%. By the time you reach full charge, you're basically flipping a coin on whether your ship survives the next 10 seconds. The young was frantically checking displays. She's right, Commander. The containment readings are fluctuating. I thought it was normal variance, but if the lattice is degrading. Shut down the charge, the commander ordered. Sorry. Shut it down, the commander turned back to Wu. This could be a trick, a way to make us vulnerable while your fleet arrives. Our fleet is hours away, Wu said. You could charge your weapons again before they get here, but you'd have the same problem. The flaw doesn't go away. It's built into the design because humans engineered these weapons during wars where we didn't care about our own casualties. We built them knowing they might kill us because all we cared about was killing the enemy. She paused, letting that sink in. Is that who you want to be? People so focused on destruction that you don't care about your own survival. The commander stared at her for a long moment. Why did you stop? Humans, I mean, you had these weapons. You had the power to dominate the galaxy. Why give it up? Because power isn't the same as strength, Wu said. We had the power to destroy anything, but we didn't have the strength to stop ourselves from using it. We lost Phobos, poisoned Mars, killed Venus, turned our own solar system into a graveyard. And for what? Territory we made uninhabitable, resources we couldn't use. We won every battle and almost lost everything. Stepped up beside her. My grandmother was on Mars during the war. She watched Phobos collapse. She said the moment the singularity activated, everyone on both sides stopped fighting. They just stared at what they'd done. Thousands of years of human civilization, all our art and science and dreams, and we used it to build something that ate a moon. That's when we learned, Jin added. Power without wisdom is just another way to die. We chose wisdom. We chose to be better than our worst capabilities. The commander's hand hovered over controls. The council wants to expel your people, send you back to Earth and quarantine you there. Is that the wisdom you chose? No, Wu said, but I'll accept it if it means preventing more deaths. I'd rather humanity be confined to one planet than see those weapons used again by anyone. Even at the cost of your freedom. Especially at that cost, Wu said firmly. That's what you don't understand. You see these weapons as power, as strength, as the key to a new age. We see them as shame, as mistakes we made when we didn't know better. We lock them away not because we're weak, but because we're finally strong enough to admit what we did was wrong. The young spoke quietly. Commander, the containment lattice is at critical degradation, if we don't shut down now. The commander closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. The fanatic's certainty was gone, replaced by doubt and fear. Shut down all weapons, he ordered. Disengage power to the planet Cracker, full emergency shutdown. His crew moved frantically across their displays. The hologram in the council chamber showed the new Ascendancy ships powering down, weapons going dark. Why, the commander asked Wu, why save us when we threatened you? Because that's what humans became, Wu said. We're not the species that builds planet crackers anymore. We're the species that tries to stop them from being used, even when it means helping people who hate us. The commander nodded slowly. The council will still judge you, still might expel your people. I know. Was it worth it, saving us? Wu thought about Lieutenant, who died rather than risk civilian lives. About 200 years of humans choosing the harder path. About her ancestors who looked at their worst selves and decided to change. Yes, she said simply. The communication ended. The council chamber erupted in voices again, but different now. Not anger or fear, but confusion and wonder and something that might have been hope. Instructor appeared beside Wu. The coalition fleet has arrived. They're taking the new Ascendancy ships into custody. No shots fired, no casualties. "What happens now?" Wu asked. "Now the council votes again," said, "but I think the outcome might be different this time." The vote took hours. Representatives debated, argued, questioned. But when it finally came, the result was clear. Humanity would remain in the coalition, not on probation, not with restrictions, full members with all rights and responsibilities. But there was one addition. The Council recognizes that humanity's history with weapons of mass destruction gives them unique knowledge, the Council speaker announced. Therefore, human cadets and officers will establish a new training program for all coalition military personnel. This program will teach ethical restraint in warfare, decision-making under pressure, and the long-term consequences of destructive capability. Wu stood before the council, exhausted, relieved, overwhelmed. "The first class will be taught by Cadet Wu Park," the speaker continued, "as a reminder of what wisdom looks like when it's earned the hard way." That night, Wu sat in her quarters, staring at the data pad that still showed the red scanner results. Planets erased, not enemies, the words that had started everything. She opened a new file and began recording. "This is Cadet Wu Park, creating a permanent record for the Coalition archives. What I'm about to describe are the worst mistakes my species ever made. I'm sharing this not because I'm proud of it, but because forgetting it would be worse than facing it." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "We were monsters once. We built weapons that could crack planets, consume moons, poison atmospheres. We measured success by how much we could destroy. But we learned. We changed. We chose to become something better than our worst capabilities. I'm sharing this history so no other species makes our mistakes. So when you face the choice between power and wisdom, between victory and morality, you'll remember what we learned. That the true strength of any civilization isn't measured by what it can destroy, but by what it chooses to protect. This is our legacy now, not the weapons we built, but the choice we made to never use them again. And we'll spend the rest of our existence teaching others to make that same choice." She ended the recording and sent it to the archives. A message appeared on her screen. It was from "I knew you could do it. Proud of you, friend." Wu smiled. The scanner had lit red. It had shown the galaxy humanity's darkest secrets. But in the end, it hadn't been those secrets that defined them. It had been what they chose to do after, what they became when they finally understood that some victories aren't worth the cost. The red light would always be part of human history, but now maybe it could mean something different. Not a warning of what humans were, but a reminder of what they chose not to be. And that, Wu thought, was a legacy worth fighting for.